Hello and welcome back to Devil's Gambit. We'll be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after Cadgan and Hector finally spent the night together. You also might recall that Cadgan was acting a little bit differently, and it is my theory, at least, that it wasn't so much Cadgan, partaking of Hector that night. It was a little bit more, Rain, aka Run Sky, than Cadgan, but we'll see. What else? There is also the whole thing about the Inquisitor being there and just sort of getting in people's ways and being kind of annoying. How these guys are going to deal with it, we don't know yet. What else? I know there's other stuff that happened, but I don't really remember. I know that Hector and Cadgan went on a sort of date. And it was sort of being heavily suggested by Run Sky for the both of them to sort of go on this date, to not be such wimps and just ask the other one out. Basically, Run Sky telling Hector, like, hey, ask him. My god, I don't know why you aren't asking him. Just do it already. And then Rain telling Cadgan, like, dude, come on, he's gonna want, for you to ask him. Come on. He's been begging for this. We both know that he wants this. I don't know if when Run Sky is currently in control of the body, if he, meaning Cadgan, is aware of what's going on, or if he's just sort of like slinks away to allow his brother and his best friend to, do the deed. Or just have like their little private moments. But whatever. Anywho, so yeah. That's pretty much what happened. So without further ado, let us continue Devil's Gambit. Act 2, Chapter 10. Promotion. The mountains rumble. Underneath them, the sky in the valley blinks, countless eyes slowly opening and closing in intervals, almost like a coordinated dance. I stare down at it, enthralled, every thought washed away before having a chance to fully form. Then I feel it, a pressure on my face, my limbs aching. A voice calls out for me and I turn around. Dad chastises me, saying that we need to hurry to the mansion, or else we'll be late. But I don't want to go. I turn to walk away, perhaps up the mountain or down the valley, but every step that I take is as though I'm knee-deep in mud. Dad complains, but I shove his voice under the surface and keep going. The lights grow more intense as I walk up the valley. Maybe Run Sky's there, waiting for me. I want to see him again, but no, a bit further ahead I run into Cadgan instead, who has black and white fur just like me. Run Sky's the color of the earth. What are you up to, Hector? Gonna take a dip? He asks with a nonchalant smile. There is something off about him, but I can't quite put my finger on what, and I don't care. I'm just too happy to see him. We keep walking, me staring at his back as we go. The flannel. It's the blue one this time. With a chuckle I tease him about Teresa needing to give him 2 shirts for his birthday. Cadgan looks surprised for a moment, and then a bit sad. Slow as my movement may be, I manage to wrap him in a hug, like I've done many times before. Have I been here already? In this mountain, that is also the valley, flows a river, just like the one in Renai's forest. Cadgan sits in front of the running water, contemplating whether to jump or not. The 5-branched trees look at us, as if in anticipation of what will happen next. Finally, Cadgan shoots me a glance and grins. Wanna see a devil? With a grin, he removes the flannel and hops into the water. Then he turns towards me, holding one hand out. I feel his presence all around me, omnipresent. With some hesitation, I take his hand, and before I can process what's happening, we both sink into the water. I touch my neck, but I can't breathe. I've lost track of the wolf among the turbulent waters. It doesn't matter how much I kick and try to swim up. The current sinks me further and further. Wolves begin drumming from the bottom of the abyss. As I descend, images are seared into my skin. The forest's long fingers encroach on the pristine wall, and the woven sigil to scrape and dig for the bone underneath. The wind sends the trees into a full rut, and drums reverberate furiously like the steps of titans. Birds take off from the treetops and fly to a piece of the sky that has fallen off. They look back at me with stars in their beaks. The river flows downhill and then uphill as the valley turns into a mountain and runs sky into Ranai. In his eyes is a badger with white and black fur just like mine, tinted red with a hint of purple by justice. That is not my face. It's the face that created me, forged me in love, fire, and venomous spite. Cadgan pulls me by the shoulder, raises his hand, and snaps his fingers. I wake up gasping for air. There is something on top of me, and it's heavy. Too heavy to move it, so I try to slip from under it instead, only to discover that I'm being held in place. After enough struggle, I manage to free myself and desperately fill my lungs with a mix of swelling wood, herbs, and a faint hint of stew coming from downstairs. But there's more. Earth and an aroma like the wood's morning breeze. Cadgan is still asleep in front of me. Ah, I see. I think I dug myself too deep under his armpit, or perhaps he pulled me closer in his sleep, and I began asphyxiating. Thank God I somehow didn't wake him up. It'd be embarrassing. What time is it? Arwell already started cooking. With a sigh, I sink back into the bed. I follow the forest of fur going up Cadgan's shoulders and neck, and to his face. He seems so at peace right now. He has since last night, from the moment that he took my hand and pulled me away from the crowd, to be specific. But said peace also serves as a reminder that no matter how well he hides it, he's still hurting inside. What can I do for him? If I could muster the courage, the coldness to betray Runsky, would that change anything? No, the problem is Manuel, not the demon. If anything, telling him about Runsky would only add another burden on his shoulders. It's the last thing that I want. But perhaps being by his side, looking at his sleeping face, really is all that I can do. Giving him this moment is all the help that I can muster. It doesn't take long for the wolf to stir in his sleep, and soon he blinks as his eyes adjust themselves to the morning glow. Wordlessly, I huddle up to him, throwing one arm around him to pull myself closer. The wolf closes his eyes, holding me to. I stay there, my forehead pushing against his rising chest, feeling his heartbeat. His fingers run behind my ear in slow strokes. Don't fall back asleep now. My grip becomes tighter, fully intending to fall back asleep. Remember what we discussed last night, Hector? Yes, that I do as told. Right. So? With an exaggerated sigh, I let go of Cadgan and roll onto my back. The wolf smiles and after scratching my ear some more, sits on the edge of the bed. His fluttering tail rubs itself against my belly. I wish that we could stay here all day, just you and me. That'd be nice. Who knows? Maybe once this is over, we could share a morning like that. I watch him as he gets dressed. It's such a relaxing morning, yet as his stupor dissipates, a sort of determination shows in his face. Do you have plans today? Yes, I'll be pretty busy. I'm not sure I'll come here for dinner, actually. I suppose he'll be helping put away the stalls and all else. Festivals are nice and all, but cleaning up afterwards is always such a chore. He finishes putting on his shirt and looks out the window before turning to me. By the way, Hector, did you visit the Duke's mansion recently? I blink, taken aback by the sudden shift of topic, and invaded by a sudden uneasiness as the memory of that day forcibly comes back. Indeed. Did Ricardo tell you? No, I just want to ask you to stay away from there for a while. With the Inquisitor in town, it's not out of the question for Manuel's mood swings to reach new extremes. Not to mention the Inquisitor will probably be visiting him regularly. I'd rather you didn't cross his path, so that he can't bother you. Yes, you don't have to tell me. I sit on the bed, throwing my arms in a long stretch, and closing my eyes. Cadgan takes the chance to sneak up on me and plants a kiss on my lips. With a chuckle, I grab his shoulders and return it. I really wish that we had more time. Don't worry, Hector. If all goes well, this won't last much longer. You think so? Cadgan nods and takes a step back. Well, I'll get going. I'll see you again soon. Sure, good luck. As for me, I better get dressed and ready for work. I still have to eat breakfast too. It's funny. I don't think that I was ever late to work during my first month, but come the leaf burning festival, and with it run Sky's fire, I began struggling to get to the hospital on time. It doesn't help that I seemingly never get moved from the morning shift. To think this time Cadgan is the reason for my delay, but I have a feeling that the head doctor will overlook it. God knows I've been doing my best to be punctual. However, when I walk into the hospital and the head doctor, who had been talking to Paolo up to that point, notices me, I see his severity in his eyes. He's been expecting me. Hector, you're finally here. Yes, sir. Is something the matter? Listen well. He clears his throat. Starting today, you are relieved of your duties in the hospital, as well as of taking care of the patients back in their homes. Huh? Why? What did I do? I really need the money, sir. How can I get you to reconsider? I knew you'd react this way. Stop yapping, son, and let me finish. His Grace wants you in a different job instead. One he thinks will make full use of your talents. His Grace? What could that be? If you'd follow me, please. The line guides me to one of the rooms away from the medical wards, which would usually be reserved for operations. Instead, it's been refurbished with brewing equipment and shelves filled with specimens. I approach the latter, squinting at a dissected snake, staring at me with empty sockets from behind the glass. Near it is a flask filled with an orange substance, preserving a familiar purple weed. My sight trails down and stumbles upon a diagram, a study of the horned beast, but what almost makes my heart jump out of my throat is a sketch of its head. Eyes, so many eyes. In its cheeks, its horns dripping from its awestruck mouth. With a hand on my chest, I turn to the head doctor. What is all this? Your new study. His Grace says that you will be of more value investigating the valley's fauna than merely tending to the wolves. What brought this about? Did the news of me curing the dusk viper venom reach Manuel? It's the only thing that makes sense to me, but that feels so long ago. How come he only heard about it now? Silvereth. Manuel doesn't involve himself with the town, preferring to remain secluded in his mansion. But Silvereth must be constantly exchanging information with him now, and must have told him about what I did. Curse that meddling inquisitor. I don't know, sir. I don't consider myself cut for research. I'd rather keep treating people, if only because that's my area of expertise. I believe His Grace must have seen in you a boon, some talent that you aren't aware of. Trust his judgment, and you might surprise yourself. Not to mention that, with this new job, you will receive a hefty raise. This doesn't sit well with me, but think of Abla and Hector. Just because you found something resembling a home here, that doesn't mean that you should forget about your roots. Even if Dad wasn't who you thought he was, that is no reason to forsake your first home. Haven't you already gotten what you wanted? Then what do you lose by giving me what I want while you're at it? Besides, it'd be unwise to defy the Duke's will. Accept the job, Hector. My shoulders rise as I take a deep breath, feeling like I'm about to choke. I hold it in for 2 seconds before letting it all out. All right, I'll do it. I'm just not sure what His Grace expects from me, specifically. I don't think that he intends to pay me to peruse research material and stare at dissected animals all day. Did he mention what results he expects? To begin with, a full cure for the dusk viper venom, one that treats both symptoms, flesh and nerves. I see. I suppose that's to be expected. The lion gestures towards an iron box sitting near the corner. In there you will find some samples for study. I figured that I don't need to tell you to be careful when you're working with it. No, sir. Now, I'll leave to acquaint yourself with your new study. Come see me if you need anything. Yes, thank you, sir. As the head doctor closes the door behind him, I scan the room before walking up to the iron box. With hesitation, I take the lid off and lift it, just enough to let some light in and to see its contents. I was half expecting more dead snakes, this time with a dead gaze instead of nothing. But no, all I find inside are tiny flasks filled with pitch black venom and a pleasant cold. I'm reminded of autumn's breath in any other situation. I remove the lid completely to inspect the box more carefully. A woven sigil is drawn on one of the inner walls. Next to it, a hook suspends a small yellow crystal, energized ember most likely. It seems undercharged, but it's probably on purpose so that the sigil doesn't outright freeze the samples. I'll have to be careful when recharging it. Placing the lid back in its place, I sit down on my new desk, absent-mindedly staring at the torches and flasks scattered around. What will I do next? Of course, take these samples and analyze them, distill them and take them apart over and over again until I understand what makes them, how life force weaves them. I'm not completely sure the dusk viper venom can be cured, but if I could treat the nervous symptom, then it shouldn't be impossible. It'll be harder all by myself, but I have as much time as I'll need. It is worrisome that the eye's influence is in these little critters, because there might be a component to them that I might just be unable to understand, and that'd make developing an antidote much more difficult. Remember, Hector, the Dark God can be understood, and it can be counteracted. Even the wolves of Old Renai managed to come up with their lullabies to put it to sleep. If its touch gets in the way, well then, that shall be another mystery for you to solve in search of a cure. That is all. In fact, don't you already have a way to interact with the Dark God's essence? My eyes open wide and I jump from the chair and slam the table with my open hands. Why did it take me so long to realize this? But of course. I saw it back when Renskai and I lay together in the old settlement, and ever since, I've seen it pressed against my nose every time that I feel the cold seeping back into my damp room in Arwell's nest. So well I know it that I could sketch it from memory. I frantically look around for a journal, a sheet of paper, a napkin, anything, afraid that the memory of it alongside this realization will slip from my consciousness any second now. Oh, you're such a fool, Hector. Such a fool. After much consideration, Bridget pushes forward with the rook, tearing into Lord Amakado's backline. The line ponders the chessboard, carefully considering the constellation of pieces that has arranged itself around his king. So far, he's had the advantage, even having the leisure to warn the wolfess whenever she was about to commit a fatal mistake. In just one more move, he'll have captured her king. However, what Bridget lacks in experience, she makes up for in bravery and quick wits. Rather than going on the defensive, she has gambled her remaining pieces in a final stand. Ah, you truly live up to your expectations, Bridget. Wonderful move. No need to be humble, Your Grace. I'm well aware that I'm cornered. This gamble is my last way out. Certainly. Amakato strokes his goatee, while Bridget has him in check. It is but a matter of time before he reaches his victory. He still holds advantage and should be able to fight off the pieces cornering his king until he is able to perform his finishing move. The woman's face is still and cold like stone as she observes her rook. Lord Amakato takes his tower and knocks down Bridget's rook. It's only then that she smiles, and what a devilish smile it is. Sorry, Your Grace, but this wasn't a gamble, but a gambit. The lion chuckles, but his eyes open with realization. Silly girl, a gambit is an opening move. To the loser go the petty corrections, and to the winner the bitter, humble look on the noble's face. I close the manuscript and rub my chin. Perhaps the way that Lord Amakato did right before his defeat. The crushing weight of Finbar in Iernan's gaze falls on me as they await my opinion. Finbar is supposed to be the nervous one, but the expectations of having something insightful to say is crushing me right now. I don't know much about chess, but it's interesting. Even if it's just a game, I think Bridget is very brave to defeat him like that. If I did that to Manuel, I'd be afraid of having my head going flying not much later. Really, I think that part with the game was trite. Oh, Irnan, not this again. Why do they need to play chess? Couldn't it be something more interesting, like Seven Little Kingdoms? Seven Little Kingdoms takes 7 days per session, Irnan, and it's a Renanian game, and a noble would find the themes distasteful. So no, they are not playing that. Then something else. Besides, chess takes just as long, if not more. Finbar shakes his head and looks at me. That is a lie, and he knows it well. We played a few rounds while I was writing this scene. But that was us. Snowball has told me of cases where games between lines went on for as long as a whole month. That's crazy. They must be playing on a whole nother level. Either that or they're really slow in the head. Anyway, let's leave that scene aside. What did you think of the rest, Hector? After that whole arc of Lady Faith trying to kill Bridget out of jealousy, only for her to fall into that moving pit in the valley and die horribly. So much has happened that it feels like Connolly has taken a supportive role. Right. He hasn't showed up in a while, hasn't he? I see the corner of Finbar's mouth rise behind his mustache, and this time he's the one wagging his finger at us. I haven't forgotten about Connolly. He still has a larger role to play. In fact, if you paid enough attention, you'd see the signs of what's to come have already been laid out. You're making shit up. Such little faith for a priest, friend. Come, read again. I'm sure you'll notice them sooner or later. By the way, is it necessary for Lady Faith's death to be so grisly? I felt a bit squeamish reading about the land octopus. Incidentally, it was by reading today's draft that I learned what a land octopus is. A monster that burrows into the walls of the moving pits and survives by preying on anything that falls into them. And if Finbar's story is to be trusted, it is a most terrible fate. Ah, I figured people would appreciate the realism. I like that part. Why am I not surprised? But speaking of the valley, I have news today. Finbar leans closer with interest, but I can already tell from Iernan's look that he doesn't like I'm bringing up the valley. I can only hope that he will change his mind once he hears what I have to say. A naive hope at best. The old man's face only sours further as I explain my new job. Not even the prospect of a full cure for the Dusk Viper venom brings him a shred of joy. The old blacksmith is beaming at the news at least. Oh, that is great, Hector. I'm happy for you. Eogan would have been proud. I bet he would have. But heed my words, Badger. What good will come of this? Is it truly wise selling the valley's secrets to the Duke? He's not doing anything of the sort, Irnan. Get off his case, will you? I don't see how this is different from me finding the cure for the Dusk Viper venom. And you approved of that? Yes, but you were trying to save a life, not digging around for secrets so that you can trade them for gold. And even back then I suspected that was a bad omen. I prayed that my distrust was unfounded, that your curiosity would end alongside your task, and it did. But now that you have this new job, who knows what somebody as obstinate as you will stumble upon. As much as I wish that he wasn't in town, you should pay close attention to the Inquisitor's words, because it's people like you that he warned us about. By God, Hector, heed his warnings before you doom us all. It's then that Finbar decides it's enough. Putting forward excuses that his anger will only impede his recovery, he offers Irnan his shoulder. The priest huffs, half-heartedly holding onto Finbar as the blacksmith helps him to his feet. He doesn't take his sight off of me for a single second until they turn away to walk towards the guest room. I just stay seated, digging into my pants with my fingers, still feeling the weight of Irnan's gaze. Finbar returns after a few minutes, looking too tired for the time of the day. All of a sudden, his words come out almost as a whisper. Forgive him for that outburst, Hector. Irnan means well, but he carries much pain and resentment, especially wherever the Duke is involved. It's almost imperceptible, but I notice a trace of shame in his words I can't quite explain. Don't trouble yourself. I'm used to being on the receiving end of Iernan's sermons. He's always so on edge about the valley too. But legends are legends. I say if we can get rid of those infernal snakes, that's a reason for celebration. But curing their venom is the next best thing. Runskai's voice condemning the wolf's forgetfulness echoes throughout my mind. I know Iernan doesn't reproach me just because of his apparent habit of criticizing me, but I have no intention of revealing to the Duke anything that isn't strictly medical discovery. He's my employer, yes, but I am a doctor, not a researcher. I won't begin acting as a ladder, no matter how much gold he promises me. Oh well, I think I better go sit with Iernan. I don't want him to think that I hold this against him, you know. I'll get going then. Suddenly my ears perk up and I reach into my belt bag. Oh, I almost forgot. Could you look at this? The old man squints at the collection of circles, woven and unknown runes alike, and lines drawn on the page of my journal. He plays with his mustache, searching in the archive of his memory for the meaning behind the sigil, but soon he realizes it's useless. Curious sigil. This rune here, it's woven. It represents the earth, the soil. This one has many meanings, but generally it alludes to an abundance of something, or to seeds. Everything else I can't recognize, however. Where did you find it? I saw it in Iernan's temple one time, and I felt drawn to it. I can't explain why. Thankfully, he's too focused on the page to look at my face and possibly see my lie written all over it. The both of us can feel that he is at the cusp of a realization. Suddenly, he snaps his fingers, and letting his arms fall, he approaches the hallway door. For a second, I think he's about to look for Iernan, but he stops by the door and crouches. I knew it looked familiar. Come here. I take 1, 2, 3 steps closer and look at the keyhole, or rather, at the iron disc delimiting it. On either side are 2 characters engraved into it, almost as if they were initials. But they are not that. They are not even letters, but runes. It holds to reason that the keyhole could act as a sigil then, but Finbar denies it, explaining it's the mark used by Renai's blacksmiths since time immemorial. The Locks had carried those runes since before his grandfather was born, and they most likely go further back. And since things have always been this way, his family continued the tradition. After returning to Orwell's nest and waiting for Cadgan for 2 hours, a period during which many of the other wolves recognize me with thankful smiles, invite me to have a drink, I head upstairs and kneel in front of my room's door. It's here, and in the neighboring doors too. The same runes had been engraved all over town, right under my nose. But upon placing my finger on it and infusing it with magic, I see that Finbar is right. There is no reaction at all. No matter the position of the door or whether it's locked or not, no attempt at activating it works. Scratching my ear in resignation and confusion, I retreat into my room for the night. There, I light my lamp and from under my pillow I produce Runskai's loincloth. Sitting on the desk, I compare the sigil painted on it with the one that I inscribed when I had the epiphany at the hospital. Not because I don't trust my memory, but for the peace of mind of making absolutely sure. It's the same. I put the loincloth away and draw on the next page of my journal, the apparent sigil on the doors. I don't know if the keyhole is a part of it, but I include it just in case. Finally, I scribble the sigil that I've seen in the medallion in Manuel's cabinet. All of them share the same rune, 4 strokes curling into something like a number 6, or a little flame. After arbitrarily deciding that it indeed must be a flame, I recline on the chair and cross my arms, trying to make sense of this. Out of the 3, Runskai's sigil is the most complex, with dozens of runes and long strokes, clustered together like pieces of a large contraption. Meanwhile, the other 2 are just the little flame and one other rune enclosed in a circle. Simplicity itself. Not that it helps, since according to Finbar, none of the runes are woven in origin. That's why it never crossed his mind that he might have been embedding sigils into the town's doors. Just now I tried the door sigil, and it did nothing. It could be that Renai's blacksmiths have made small mistakes or alterations with time, and with its original form lost, it doesn't work anymore. But even leaving that aside, just because it became a tradition to put the sigil on doors, that doesn't mean that it has anything to do with them. As long as the runes are a mystery, anything from the environment, the material where they were carved, to the amount of magic applied could be an issue. However, if I speculate blindly, I'll never get anywhere. Is there anything more concrete that I can latch onto? I'm about to get into bed when I recall Rudsky explaining that his sigil acted as a countermeasure to the eye's influence. He called it a lullaby. Back at the hospital, I thought that it'd be useful to have something that can detect and counteract the Dark God, but there might be more to it than even that. After all, if the door and the medallion sigils both share runes with it, could that mean that they too are lullabies? And, as I'm asking myself this, I close my eyes and fall into a deep, tired slumber. Act 2, Chapter 11, 1,000 Fish. We wait. In the shadows cast by the moonlight, huddled on the ground, looking out to the streets around the temple. Our ears swivel to catch distant footsteps, a drunkard and his wife returning home, both smelling of ale, cheering loudly, a group of 4, no, 5 children playing with a ball until a mother calls them home. In the temple, flickering light seeps out from the boarded-up windows. It moves from room to room as the invaders go on with their nightly rituals. This would be boring were it not so similar to hunting. I even feel the weight of our bow on our back, and my fingers twitch, ready to draw the string. We make our move when the candle in the temple goes out, and the streets go quiet. A second is all we need to inspect the temple's doors. The me on the other side swims up to the surface with his hundreds and hundreds of eyes. This one is the same. Our ancestors were a crafty bunch, leaving behind their magic and tools so that they are within our reach, but hidden from those ignorant of our nice purpose. Hundreds and hundreds of eyes looking up to me from the depths, shimmering like hummingbird feathers. Even if somebody suspected something's up, replacing a door is such a bother. Moonlight shines down on the depths of our mind, and I see the hundreds and hundreds of sharp jaws and sharper claws reaching up to the lock. Unlock it. I focus and let it flow. It's like second nature. The rune is clear in my mind's eye, as are the spells that I've inherited and learned, and the person, the thing, flowing through us. The eye, or maybe something like it. The shamans and their ghosts in the tree's roots. The echoing cries of those the flash turned into silhouettes. The valley's life flourishing and twisting and becoming one before becoming two. The eye slumbering, stirring. The dream is cracking. The door unlocks itself. We slip in unnoticed and lock it from the inside. The storeroom. But we stop. For a moment we have to, as we look around and see through the changes the invaders have done to the place. Behind their furniture, line paraphernalia and flags, it's still the same. It's still our home, even if it feels foreign and distant, like a charcoal drawing a memory drained of color. The me on the other side and all his eyes remain paralyzed in place, while I'm the one dragging our body to our goal, to the storeroom, and then to the old fireplace there. Once more I use our magic, opening the entrance to the temple's secret hideout. I place Caddy's lighting on the table. The cramped hideout is the only remaining place with the eyes, runes still in proud display, despite the dust and the cobwebs and the immediate urge to sneeze. I blow my nose and wave my hand in front of my face, the bow I leave resting on top of the table where Dad once worked his jewels and metals. He taught the one before us, who I still am unsure of if he was a sibling or simply yet another parent, all about how Symbols not only have meaning, but sometimes remember, and even better than the flesh. No one will ever find us here. We'll be hidden in plain sight. We can also easily reach the tower from the storeroom staircase. That'll be a good vantage point. I don't think that we'll be able to cook anything here, though. Probably not. It'd be too risky to cook it in the forest, too. Silver Earth might notice the smoke and want to check it out. We could always help ourselves to what our well leaves in this kitchen. You won't even feel that we're gone. This is good. I can barely contain myself from tap dancing, but for now, there is nothing for me to do except lie down on the cot and rest for tomorrow. The me on the other side is already at it again. He rearranges the little fish with the methodical cadence of Dad when he shaped Silver. I look down below the surface and see all the fish, all his sharp and cold-blooded thoughts, with their slitted eyes and sharp teeth shining under the moonlight. Some thoughts swim together in big groups, some drift alone and never stop, and some hide in the silt deep down in the darkest depths, but they all have killing jaws. The me on the other side scares me sometimes. When he reaches out to me past the threshold and we hold hands for a second, I know all their names and what they mean, how they fit together, and sometimes they form swarms. More teeth, more eyes, more bite than anything the valley has ever created. And they take shapes. The shape itself comes alive, and for a moment, it's like he could make another me. But I am here, so how can he do that? How can I be there at the same time? Will the little rain in his side one day give back everything that he gave me? Is that really me? One time, when I reached into him, I could see it for a moment. Caddy uses a little rain on his side to see the future, and there are other people there too. There is a little Hector, a little Teresa, and I see the little fireman forming too. Sometimes he picks up the little people and spends a day looking at them, seeing how the fish react to each other. He makes new fish too, and adds them to the groups until they look just like the real deal. Sometimes, I try talking to the little Hector on Caddy's side, but it's not the same. Even when Caddy plays along, it's just not the same. And I saw another thing too. In those dark, slitted, cold, terrifying eyes, and all the hundreds and hundreds of teeth, there was love. Cadgan doesn't realize that it's love because that's something that he gave me. It's mine. But it's still there. And at the same time, I wonder how that's possible. And I become paralyzed because I see that love is not a single thing. Love can be born of something so utterly terrifying. Being loved is as scary as it is necessary. What are you thinking? It scares me. I don't know why he does the things he does. Caddy, why did you tell Hector that you were a demon? Why did you want him to know? And why do it then? I look down again and see all the fish stopping, drifting, then jerking in a new direction. The light shines in their eyes. They see me. They know that I'm looking, and in the blink of an eye, they take a new, more inscrutable shapes. I don't want to live a lie anymore. But that's not all there is to it. Caddy's mind creates new shapes once, twice, thrice. Each one is something he thinks of saying but chooses not to. I reach my hand below the surface and he pulls me in. All at once. All that is fair and just comes from the truth. No good built on falsehoods would last. The truth is our only way out, and it is on our side. And that applies both to Hector and Renai. But that thought vanishes before I can even grasp it. There is a kind of love in being understood, in being known, in being seen, and that cannot exist in a world of lies. The little me, all the eyes and hundreds of fish look me dead in the eye, but it lasts only a second, and it all snaps away. But Hector cannot understand it, Caddy. The fish recoil. It hurts more than Cadgan realizes, more than he can feel. Truth is a path. All the fish look up to me with their unblinking eyes and It's late, Rain. We have big plans for tomorrow. Can't we visit Hector? Not tonight. We have to be stealthy. But if all goes well, it should be good for you to see him 2 nights from now. Delightful. Now I really can't keep myself from tapping my hooves against the floor. Cadgan shushes me, urging me to sleep. We hide in plain sight and wait. Atop the temple's tower, from which we see all who cross the center square, just the perfect place to watch out for the firemen. The wind is blowing towards us. We'll be able to catch his scent well before we can see him. We must always remain downwind of him. We don't know how well his sense of smell is. Just like hunting with teacher. Yes, this is a hunt, and we're in this together. I curl, calm my breath, and stay still, very still. Focus on the magic, on the sigil, on the spell flowing through my hands and back to ourselves, on the eye's languid essence, on its deep slumber. The songs, the lullaby, the ballad, the prayers. Oh, Ranai. The wicked's rest must now be made eternal. Return of Ranai's love, my sole desire. I mutter the lyrics under my breath, and the me that breathes hums along. O brother of my soul, branch of our tree, twofold are these, the dire mistakes I see. Please, listen now to your brother Hibernal. Inside our mind, we sing and hum, and the spell keeping us invisible reaches its peak. The eye's energy flows unrestrained, and I barely feel it draining away my energy. It does not take long for our mark to arrive. The fireman. He enters every store in town one by one. We let him to it for a while, until he stops outside a shop and scratches his head, lost in thought. Before Caddy says it, I'm already getting up and climbing down. He's distracted. He won't notice us now. Invisible by the eye's magic, and with quiet footsteps, we sneak through the streets. He's too lost in his thoughts to notice that we're not more than 15 feet away from him. Up next, he goes into the sweet place, the one where the wolf with the blessed hands works the bones, the one before us would beg Mom and Dad to get for him. Later he visits the man with hidden eyes, who makes the quick kill arrows Caddy likes, where Teacher is staying. Caddy doesn't want Teacher to know that we're here. It'll be more convincing this way. Wherever he goes, the fireman asks the same questions. Do you know where Cadgan is? They don't. Have you seen him today then? No. In that case, when did you last see him? The festival, of course, but the fireman wasn't out investigating then. That'll throw him off for a bit. If we were planning something reproachable as he suspects we are, we wouldn't have taken that risk. You were just having fun with our boyfriend. Nothing wrong with that. I can feel Cadgan's smile. It breaks the threshold and paints itself on my face. You were spot on with your guess. Of course he was. Just look at him, or better yet, notice his scent. He smells like a tower of all sorts of food, consolidating into indigestion. The man's a glutton, Caddy. There was no way that he was going to chase us around during the games. He was too busy eating himself into a coma. The fish in his side freeze, and for a moment I feel their hundreds and hundreds of eyes shining like suns at me. Very good. Any other insight on him? I sharpen my hearing. He's now gone inside another shop and is boring the people there about his childhood on an island. It's always the same with him. Same story, same words, even the tone of voice. He has that whole monologue all rehearsed. And he's also pretending to be stupid with all the talk about growing up on an island. He cuts that short as soon as people get distracted and start saying more than they should. But it's not like he's lying. I bet he did grow up on an island. I sneak closer and look over the corner. And it was a shitty place with the way that he grimaces whenever people start poking him about it. Caddy never pays attention to people like this. He is so silly sometimes with all those complicated thoughts and mashing his little fish together when it's all plain to see on their faces. Do you think that there's something more to this island? Absolutely. He's giving away a fragment of the truth, because despite all the bitterness, sometimes there's this fondness in his voice. Like he's remembering something important to him, which he's locked up in that furnace he has for a heart. If we ever get the chance, we should poke him about it. I bet he'd hate it. That'd give it away that we know too much. But perhaps. New fish form in his mind, and I've never seen sharper teeth. I'm putting together a picture of him. What else can you catch? I don't need Hector's giant squeezable nose to tell. He smells ashy, but not like when he first entered where we and Hector sit together, or like the furious smoke that clung to him after burning the haze leaf. He's had sex recently. Last night, I reckon, because he's still smelling like it. And there was a lot of drool involved. His clothes are reeking of the stuff. And what a weirdo. He doesn't take his shirt off during. Now you're just fucking around. No way, I'm serious. I really am, but I can't help having a little laugh. That's enough. Let's move to the next spot and prepare things. I think the plan will work. The fireman's steps leave behind burning imprints of memories. The earth takes his shape, and it remembers, a faraway place where the compulsions of tugging his tailboard and cleaning wet spots with a handkerchief were instilled in him. The earth also remembered Hector for a time, but then the fog came, so we shaped wood into him instead. I looked for him every morning in the town square, bustling footsteps, in the grass in the forest, in the lonesome branches those seeds had been stolen, and in the trails left behind by the messengers. And when the fog grew too dense, I searched for him in the burn marks. I was kneeling about to submerge myself in this side forever when he pulled me away. Why did he pull me away? And just when we sitting by the riverbed could have lasted forever, why did he vanish from the footprints, the grass, the lonesome branches, and all else? Well, now I know. And now Renai remembers him too. But there is no point if the fireman, with his flaming holy emissions, burns us all, or the town, to ashes. I should have known better. The thought of the amphitheater makes a knot form in my throat. But it's as Caddy likes to say, it's no use to cry over spoiled milk. Hector is mine. Even now, he is next to me in the water's reflection. I can't tell the difference between his black and white and mine. I won't let him vanish again. So I worry once again about the fireman's tugging of his tailboard and the wet spots. I find his stomach much more interesting than the contents of his skull. However, Caddy once more swims to the surface, demanding my attention. We sneak away, the wind blowing away from the fireman all the while, and head to the town's border, to an inconspicuous bush hidden in the forest behind Teresa's farm. There awaits us a stone that I left there the day before, a rune carved into it. The fireman appears in the path leading to the farm not much later. Once more, that unspeakable presence flows through me into the stone, and from the farm, Teresa would then hear a bird song, one she knew by heart. She knows what's next, and we vanish, taking the stone with us. The fireman stops dead in his tracks when a blood-curdling scream cuts through the landscape. Motherfucker! He stays still for a second, face frozen, indifferent but lost in thought. His legs tense, but he does not burst into a sprint, choosing instead a brisk walk towards the source of the sound. It comes from the back, past the house, and a sorry collection of wilting crops. From afar, the fireman sees Teresa with a foot on the fence of her property, yelling at an embarrassed wolf on the other side. Look at what you've done! You'll ruin us all! From the corner of her eye, Teresa sees the fireman. And you! Don't you even start with your fucking questions and little stories, you dishonest prick! You get all precious with the inbred Duke's haze-leaf patch, but look at this! From among the rows of oats sticks out a single purple, rotten finger. Once tall and proud, its leaves have become infected with purple stains, and its stem has begun to decay, making it look as though it's crouching. The eye's arteries have grown around it, beginning to pump their splitting substance, but not quite enough of it to grow into their full terror. But its presence grows indeed. It's not just for nigh. Sometimes our vibration reaches us through the soil from some remote place. Many of them are from the west, from where Hector comes, and many more in the Lion and Dragon kingdoms, and many, many more from what Cadgan theorizes are either colonies or trading partners. It's faint now, but it is still the same encroaching sensation that I felt back in the time that we sat in the dark and the people with many eyes touched our forehead, subjects searching for their master. The neighbor's crops are in an even sorrier state. It seems Teresa's neighbor had been in the middle of trying to get rid of his own rotten fingers when the wolfess noticed what had happened. I keep telling you to stop using that shit. I don't care if you don't meet quotas. For years we've been getting more and more haze leaf all over the fields. The fireman blinks, his mouth ever so slightly open as he tries to process what's happening. When a mad noble gets in his mind that there is a demon out and about, y'all pull out all the theatrics and do your investigations. But what about this? Do we have to wait for it to become Valley Haze Leaf? Do people have to get sick before you'll do something? Wait. Go back. This has been happening since... Teresa pauses for an instant to slow down her breathing, as well as the rhythm of which her shoulders rise and fall. She then points at her neighbor's crops, or rather, at the stake piercing the earth. Years. It wasn't like this when I was a child, but ever since people started using those Earthhelpers, our fields have been getting covered in this stuff. You listen to me now. I don't believe for a second that travesty in the amphitheater was some demon or what have you. I don't know how, but the dude did something to spread haze leaf all over the place, and your answer will be in those machines that he's been peddling. He's trying to drive us out, murder us, like he's been doing with those useless expeditions to the valley. The fireman barely moves. His gaze shoots to the neighbor, who at this point is shaking like a leaf. He gives the man the smallest nod, a suggestion or perhaps a command for him to get away. Then he turns to Teresa. He's wilder, taller and stronger, but she stands her ground as if none of that mattered. The fireman lets the silence linger, staring her down, but even then Teresa does not break. He scoffs and looks away. Perhaps he thinks her a hysterical mother, or, more charitably, he jokes to himself about what motherhood does to a woman. But he does not know Teresa, doesn't know what she's capable of. He climbs over the fence and takes a look at the Earthhelper. This thing? That's right. It's supposed to improve the crops, to protect them from rain, the cold, and disease. But believe me, it ruins the soil. It's like making a deal with the devil. Give it 2 or 3 more years, and we'll have a horrible famine when the damage becomes too much all at once. Mark my fucking words. All right, I'll investigate this haze leaf. But that'll have to wait until later. I came here to ask you some questions. The fireman realizes that he let himself get caught off guard. He once again puts on the sarcastic smile of his, hiding his hands behind his back, and with both a literal and metaphorical fence between him and Teresa, he resumes what he came here to do. You see, it is about Cadgan. I need to have a chat with him. Nothing serious. It's just that he is a peacekeeper and I figured that he'd know something. Teresa's expression remains ever so slightly indignated, but there is a minimal shift in her eyes, one that I'm sure neither the other me nor the fireman perceive. Even if Caddy hadn't briefed her, she wouldn't trust a single word this man says. You and him being friends. I thought you'd know his whereabouts. Have you seen him today? I can't say that I have. You'll have to forgive me, but I can't just go out of town on a whim. I have 3 pups who need me. Understandable. In that case, can you tell me when was the last time that you saw him? I saw him during the games 2 days ago, but that's it. She brings a hand to her chin, thinking. Have you checked the bakery back in town? They get their lumber from him. They haven't heard from him since before the games. How about Orwell's Nest? The owner of that place often has him over. He's the place's unofficial bouncer. He was there last morning, and that was his last known location. Now she adds a hint of worry to her tone. What about his place? I went there 3 times yesterday, and there was no one. She stares hard into the ground and all of a sudden hits her forehead with the indignation of somebody who just remembered something too obvious to have forgotten it in the first place. Well, let me be honest, Cadgan isn't exactly rich. You probably figured that out from looking at his shack. He doesn't have the money to just stop working on a whim. So, if he's not delivering lumber, and he's not earning his keep as a peacekeeper, hmm? There's his line working for the Duke. His name is Ricardo. I know he and Cadgan have done some projects together. That is, he pays Cadgan to help him with research. Sometimes that involves venturing into the valley too, so it explained things. Maybe you could check up with him? He ought to know something. The fireman is not surprised in the least by the mention of that familiar name. Why, it's perfectly natural. But he still goes through the trouble of opening his arms, as though struck by a massive realization. Oh, of course, that explains it. Yes, I've talked to Ricardo. I should have thought of it sooner. He has many risky jobs, that man. Well, we need to earn our living somehow, don't we? Besides, you're one to talk. Oh, I do this for pleasure. And besides, I assure you that I am never the one in danger. Well, time to arrange another encounter with Ricardo, post haste. Once the fireman's silhouette disappears down the road back to town, and the stench dissipates, Teresa takes a basket, asks her husband to look after the children for a few minutes, and goes into the forest with the pretext of collecting berries. She stops near where we hide the birdsong sigil, and after looking around a little, she kneels and begins plucking berries from a bush. The basket is almost filled when she looks up from above the bush and our gazes meet. She's not startled. I got her a couple of times at first, but nowadays she's always expecting my tricks. Not that it prevents me from trying. She quickly takes the basket away, knowing well that I'd take a bunch of them and shove them into my mouth had she been a split second slower, and stands up. There you are. Ooh, I see you're finally trying out your new clothes. With a grin, I pulled apart the blue collar, as if showing off my pecs underneath. Don't I look great? Of course, I made it for you after all. So, what do you think? You're one hell of an actress, Teresa. Why, thank you. All those years helping with the plays paid off. Do you think that he took the bait, though? Caddy sits in the air next to me, observing some of his fishes dancing around his claws. They do their usual song and dance, moving around all over the place before returning to their original place, and doing it all over again. That information about the Earthhelpers will put Silvereth in a bind. It's unlikely that he'll get any information out of the other wolves. Saying the Duke's family has been spreading demonic corruption is a grave accusation. Renai fears him too much for that. Not to mention that he could make an enemy out of Manuel in the process. Ricardo, however, is of shaky loyalty to the Duke and well versed in artifacts. If Silvereth's as sharp as he seems, he'll easily figure out that he's the best chance at learning more about the Earthhelpers. Whether it is to pursue us or to investigate the Earthhelpers, he will go to Ricardo. I refocus on Teresa. Rain, are you talking with him? Yes. Caddy says that he has no option but to take the bait, basically. What's the next step now? Did you instruct Ricardo on what to do? No. Caddy said that he'll play his part perfectly without any coaching. In fact, the question is whether or not Silvereth has the brains to connect the dots, he thinks. That's the next step of the plan, in fact. What do you mean? With a grin, I raise my hand and purple fiery tendrils emerge from my fingers. Let's say Caddy and I will have a very busy night. Well, it seems that Teresa is not the only one. Well, it seems that Teresa knows about Rain slash Run Sky. I think at this point, it's more or less certain that Runskai's name is actually just Rain, and that Runskai is just a name that he's using in order to stay sort of not incognito, to just sort of hide what he is or who he is from Hector at the moment. Probably because Cadgan doesn't want the whole charade, I guess, to be known in a way. You would think that it would be easier to just tell Hector what is going on, that Rain and Cadgan are one and the same, and that it's okay if if you like both of them because you essentially like both of them. They are sharing the same body, so you have two boyfriends for the price of one. I still don't fully trust Rain/Runskai. But for the time being, I suppose he is one of the good guys. And that the main bad is the Dark God. And that having the Inquisitor and having the Duke there complicates things for at least Cadgan and Rain. My guess is that they're trying to figure out a way to get the Inquisitor to either stop Manuel and perhaps get rid of him, or just stop him in general from doing any further expeditions into the valley, which is probably what is, sort of causing the Dark God to stir. And it seems that it's basically Cadgan/Rain's job to essentially keep that from happening. And it complicates their job if they have the Duke, continually poking the Eye Valley, and now having an Inquisitor there basically looking for a chance to basically burn down the whole town. Not a chance, an excuse. If he were to find out that Cadgan is being possessed by this other demonic wolf, who seems less demonic the more time passes, but is still connected to the valley, then, he has plenty of excuse to basically get rid of Cadgan and possibly get rid of the town. But yeah. Now, speaking of the Inquisitor, I would like to point out something when they're tailing the Inquisitor and when Rain is sort of like focusing in on him, you get to see like his silhouette, which is white. And Rain kind of makes a comment about being interested in his stomach. That there's something off about his stomach. And if you look at the CG, or if you go back to that part in the video, I kind of want to pull it up right now, and I'll put it up right now instead of going through the gallery, because, it's going to end up showing some other stuff that I would have to blur. But if you look at the belly, there is like a little notch missing. I'm wondering if he has a wound that won't heal, or if there's something else going on with his body. Because Rain mentioned that the Inquisitor has fun with his clothes on, that he doesn't take it off. My guess is that there is something going on with his stomach that he does not want to reveal to anyone. Not only that, but apparently there's always wet spots on basically his stomach area, which I think Hector also noted. Part of me feels that there might be another mouth, but that would be very weird. But like, Rain also noted that there is copious amounts of drool on his clothes. If it's not coming from his mouth, what if it's coming from a second mouth? That would be really weird, but like, I could see it happening. Maybe it's a birth defect because he is part lion, And I kind of get the sense that most of the lions, at least in the royal lions, are inbred. And considering that Manuel is like half of his face is disfigured and his hand is also very disfigured to the point where he probably can't use it that well, it stands to reason that anybody that mates with a royal member, anybody that is within royalty, that they're gonna produce children that have birth defects. And perhaps maybe the Inquisitor is a child of a royal lion and a dragon. Because he is part dragon, part lion, so yeah. What else? Again, Teresa knowing that Rain and Cadgan sharing the same body as a thing is very interesting. The whole sigil on the doors, I'm assuming that is what Rain and Cadgan were talking about, where their ancestors of the people of Old Renai knew well enough in advance to leave all these little things there for anybody that had to, I guess, ensure that, that they were watching the valley and whatever. So I'm assuming there's more going on between Cadgan and Rain and why they came to be, how they work, how they function, how whatever. And yeah, again, the sigils are probably what was left behind for them specifically to use in order to be able to go through people's houses. I don't know. But I guess we'll see more of all this as the story unfolds. Also, I wonder how many chapters there are. Or acts, I guess. Is it acts or chapters? Is it the act first and then the chapter, or the chapter first and then the act? I don't know, I forget. But I wonder how much longer the story's gonna go. Anyway, so yeah. So, what are your thoughts? Write it down in the comments, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Devil's Gambit yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description, which will have a direct link for the itch.io page where you can download the game and play it yourself. They do have a Patreon in case you want to support them, and you do get early access to builds of Devil's Gambit a month in advance. And I don't know if there's any works in progress or whatever, but I'm sure there's stuff there. But yeah, so if you want to support the project, subscribe to them. And if you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to become a channel member, which does help support the channel. I think it's only like $3 a month. That's the price that I set. And yeah, it does help support the channel. You do get to see the videos as they're being scheduled. This one should hopefully come tomorrow, after, because I had to record this twice. Actually, no, 3 times. The first time I ended up having to stop because literally 8 minutes into recording, I was told that hey, before it gets late, can you go and put gas in the car? It's like, oh my god. You told me that before. And then the second time around, I recorded it perfectly fine. But Wavelink decided to have an update which always changes where the default audio channel will be. So it recorded my audio of me talking, but it did not record the audio of the game. So rather than just having to deal with figuring out where the music ends and music stops according to the script files, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna record this all over again. And technically speaking, I did a better job of recording this time around than the previous time. So it worked out. I'll just have to go to sleep at 1 a.m. now. Anyways, but yeah, so yeah. What was I saying? I forget what I was saying. Channel member, Ko-fi in case you want to support me through there, and Throne in case you want to buy me a book. I know somebody bought something on Throne. I will have to check what it was because it didn't tell me what it was. So thank you to whoever did that recently. I don't know who you were, but thank you. So yeah, you have Devil's Gambit, and then after this, I'm gonna record Rain Check, and then after that, Roads Yet Traveled, and there will be hopefully soon after that, will be a surprise for the people who are channel members, as an incentive. And then after that, Soul Creek, the second to the last chapter of Soul Creek. Also, in case you're seeing this and it hasn't been released publicly. If you want to support Ryo, you can actually pay $7 and you'll be able to read the second to the last chapter of Soul Creek before it goes public, which I did, but I'm gonna ask him if I should hold off or if it's okay to record it now and then just have it ready to upload and whatnot. So I'll ask him. Anywho, so yeah, in case you want to read Soul Creek ahead of time, which you still have like 2 weeks to do that, so yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!